I hadn't run a 100-mile race, and I think it was about 6 years. I had, some heart surgeries. I had maybe some questioning in my mind about, I call it part-time savage. I started kind of going through this. I started getting, a little bit injuries, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, things that back in the day never slowed me down. So when I got my head out of my ass and realized that, hey, we have more left, we can still push harder, we're not there yet. I realized, talking to a guy named Cameron Haynes, who did this race, 240-mile race. And I was thinking, I go, is this the new level? Is this the new push? So when I decided to do that race, it was in the back of my mind like, man, I've really become an expert at running 100-mile races. So for me, this was the new level, the 200+ mile race. And what was so amazing about that, as you probably read in the book, I had a hard time the first time doing it. I came back and did better, but what's amazing about the human mind is that it becomes your new norm. Like, to think that I can run 200 miles, 240 miles, and that becomes like running 50. I never thought that was possible. This is why I'm always pushing that limit, because I know that within pushing these limits, there's always more. So I end up doing almost like back-to-back 200-mile runs. When the 200-mile race, 240-mile race was hard at once, it became something that was very easy after I figured it out. All the failures of my life, all the things that I failed and I went back. I failed and I went back and I finally succeeded. All the things that kicked my ass, I put them all in the cookie jar, because at times of hell, even the hardest men, in times of suffering, what we do is we forget how hard we really are. Because that's what suffering is. Suffering is a test. That's all it is. Suffering is the true test of life. And so that cookie jar travels in my brain. So whenever I get put in a situation where I have poopy pants, the woe is me mentality of, oh my God, life sucks, I take a second, I take the 1 second decision. I step out of my life for 1 second, go in the cookie jar, pull up, oh, you were in 3 hell weeks and finished 2. One of those hell weeks, a guy died because it was so bad. Oh, you are badass. You are. I put it back in the cookie jar and I remember who I really am. I'm not the kid that was called, I'm not the scared kid. This is who I am. It's a reminder of who you truly are at the core of yourself. But what I was saying to myself the whole time on that track, and this is what I say to myself: self-talk and visualization are the 2 keys to my success. I believed for that last 19 miles, I was indestructible. Because I took myself in that chair, crapping up my back, peeing blood down my leg, shin splints, stress fractures. I use all that for motivation versus negativity. I use it for motivation. I said to myself, who on this earth would still be going right now? You are. You are. You gotta be the hardest on the planet. Is it true? At that time, it got me to the finish line of that race. I believed it. I believe it today. I believed it enough to where my body said, he's not gonna stop. And I took all the negative things. I need to go to the hospital, this and that. And I used it all. Who the hell could even get out of that chair? You did. Who the hell would even think about taping stress fractures up? You did. All those things I used for motivation. It was amazing because in the first hell week, I was still doubting myself, because these guys come from the academy, the Naval Academy. These guys come from, a lot of them, not all of them, but they come from really good families. They're almost like their dads were SEALs, their grandfathers were SEALs. Right. They come from a lot better. I mean, I had to earn my way just to get in the Navy, let alone be a SEAL. And I quit Air Force training, and now I'm going for the best. So my self-esteem, even though I was building it up and I lost weight and stuff like that, I'm now around the most uncommon of uncommon people. And I'm like, my God, I'm here. Do I belong here? So your mind has a good way of taking the path of least resistance. Whenever friction happens, friction causes growth. Whenever friction happens, that's why a lot of us don't have any growth, because when friction happens, we go the opposite direction. So in my mind, when friction happened, my mind said, oh, hey, man, let's get out of here,
You're
man.
a fraud.
Yeah. You're not real. Right. You've lied your whole life. You come from this, you can barely read. Those things, so whenever times got hard, my mind said, you're not good enough. Let's go. So My eyes, my mind weren't connecting. So how you combat that is this. I call it the cookie jar. You have to remind yourself. We all have a story. All of us have gone through very hard time. But when we're in a hard time, our mind has a way of forgetting what all we've overcome. I have a way of taking 1 second when I want to quit and saying, okay, you endured this. So I look at my life and how I came up as the ultimate training ground versus most people look at it as why? Woe is me. God, why?
Right, exactly.
Why? I had to flip this upside down and say, hang on a second. God was training me to be one of the baddest men on the planet Earth.
Absolutely right.
This was my journey. So instead of looking at it like, oh my God, man, why did I start it? Why did my dad beat me for, why is this? It was to be right where I'm at today. Those things beat me, but they didn't kill me. And I was able to work around them and figure out ways through it. The reason why we go back to old habits is because our goals are too lofty. We're not achieving our goals fast enough. So what happens is, you know what? Oh man, we're very impatient nowadays. For me, it was good. I didn't have a phone. I was out of this world by myself. It was a race against David Goggins. It wasn't a race against, God, I want to look good for this person or that person. It was me. I got to change myself. So for me, if I lost 5 pounds in a week, I got a feeling. I allowed myself to feel proud of that. I didn't look at, I got to lose 106 pounds. I'm like, man, I went from 297, now I'm 292. In 1 week, man, I'm killing it. We're not proud of ourselves for the small accomplishments. What we need is this monstrosity of the thing to happen and say, I did it. Nah, there's a process that you have to go through, and patience is the process. And if we don't have patience, after a week, I haven't lost 30 pounds, man, I'm done. I'm over it. So that's what I found out with people, man. They're not patient enough to realize and to enjoy the moment, not live in it, just enjoy it. There's no finish line in life, but enjoy that moment. Roger that, man, I lost 5. Let me go 10 next week. So that's the whole thing about it. That's how people lose it. What's funny about failure is we're afraid to fail a lot of times because we're afraid to get those people telling us that we're not good, that we shouldn't try again. Mm-hmm. This is how I look at it. First of all, those people are going to be there. And 99.9% of those people who are in your ear after you fail haven't even tried what you're attempting to do. Mm-hmm. That's first of all. Mm-hmm. But they have a voice. That voice needs to be, we're done. You don't need to talk to me anymore. Mm-hmm. Like when I failed the pull-up record, I was going for 4,020 pull-ups. And I failed it twice before I finally got it the third time. I had so many people telling me, you can't do it. And I was like, how many pull-ups have you done in your life? So that's the first thing. Look at who's talking to you negatively first. And failure is the only way to grow. The only way to grow for me. Mm-hmm. Everything I've ever succeeded in, mm-hmm. 3 hell weeks. Yep. Everything, Ranger School, everything I've ever failed, I failed miserably so many times. But what you do with that failure is you go back, you learn from it. And not just learn from it, I call it the live autopsy, where you get all this stuff, you get a scratched piece of paper, and you start writing down. Don't even acknowledge the fact that you failed. You're looking at it almost like the daggone light bulb. Like, okay, this went wrong, that went wrong, that went wrong. And then you go back into it. Mm-hmm. All failure is a tool for success. Mm-hmm. It shows you how to get there if you're willing to stay in the fight. That's the hard part, though. After failure, all these voices start to say, no, we're not good enough, we're not good enough, we're not good enough. No, we haven't tried enough. And that is so true. We just haven't tried enough. But yeah, without failure, I wouldn't be who I am today. The mind, as you know, is not a muscle, but it almost is. Yeah. It really is. Right. If you stop going to the gym, your muscles will atrophy. If you stop training your brain, the same thing will happen. So I learned to callous over. I did 4,030 pull-ups in 17 hours to break the Guinness Book of World Records. Your hands become very calloused. Calluses protect your hands. What I learned to do is through mental hardening is callous my mind. Mm-hmm. I had a victim's mentality. I learned to callous my mind over the victim's mentality. And you have to be willing to put yourself in very difficult situations at all times to be able to do that. So my big takeaway of life is if you're constantly taking the easy way out, you're never gonna callous your mind. I was at MIT. They called a person like me to MIT. to speak to some of the biggest head guys on the planet. I was on this panel, and I'll talk about it in my introduction of my book. And all these brainiacs were there, and they called me in. Like you say, I didn't go to college for this, but they're all theorists. I'm a practitioner. And so they're all sitting there, all these great, smart minds from MIT are asking these brilliant guys questions. I ain't say a word. I'm intimidated. But I know that half of what they're saying is wrong. Because what these theorists did, even though they're very smart, what these theorists did was they took a poll on normal people. And this is what you get. This is what we cannot do. So theorists love telling you what we cannot do. This is what we can do. So one person in the crowd asked me a question, why aren't you saying anything? I said, pretty much, I disagree with almost everything up here on this panel because I'm living proof that everything that they're pretty much saying is not true. I was a below average person. I was a chameleon living in life who could barely get by. So I know that they were taking the normal mindset of people. They weren't talking about the 1%ers, the people who want it like there's no tomorrow. And so that's what I started realizing was we have theorists and we have practitioners. So what's in my book is from going into the dungeon. And when you're in those points where you want to quit and not quitting and seeing how the mind starts to operate in those moments of fear, anxiety, self-doubt, insecurities. And that's where you learn to fix it. You don't fix it in 72-degree weather, drinking a milkshake, watching TV. You fix it by going into the environment